Good morning, everyone, and welcome to your sermon. Welcome to your message this morning. And I start off with a pondering which is perhaps more of a guessing, that many of you out there can do paper chains much better than I can. I've never quite been able to get a paper chain just right. The pieces are too wide or they're too short. And then when I make the paper chain, things come out looking crooked and sort of clumsy. But I did make this paper chain. And this paper chain is a symbol of each one of the 31 pastors who have served the church since 1971. Each link on this chain represents a pastor who has served the church before me. This chain shows each pastor who has been here, each pastor who has ministered, each pastor who has been part of something larger than themselves. For each of us who is this one link that connects Alfred Parish Church to the place where God calls all to join the kingdom. But because us ministers are simply one piece of the chain, each one of us knows or has known when our ministry with all of you ends. And in order to best serve the church when we realize this time has come, we leave. And this is the hard part. Leaving is hard. Knowing that you have become part of the chain that was before you is hard. But here's the thing. Ministers are not the church. We are not or should not be the reason why folks show up on Sunday mornings, or the reason why folks connect to the community, or why folks cry out for social justice, or why a church succeeds, or why a church fails. Rather, ministers are teachers, pastors, and moral prophets. And all of this is wrapped into what you can call a type of consultant leader. It's the reason why pastors pay self-employment tax. We are not, but we are members of the community we serve. And when we leave these churches we served, we have to separate ourselves from the church as the teacher, pastor, and moral prophet. We have to separate ourselves so we are no longer that type of consultant leader. So I have this chain, which is still sort of discombobulated and clumsy. And this is my piece. And I'm going to add my piece to this chain. So I become the 32nd pastor who served the Alfred Parish Church. For I will soon be ending my ministry, my pastoring, and my prophesying, and I will no longer be your leader. So, I close my circle. And the reason why I have to close the circle is because this is the next pastor who will come along. If I do not close my circle, the next pastor will have no place to connect. So I close my part of a circle where I will soon become part of the history of Alfred Parish Church. And another way that I have been thinking about this, and if you will grant me the grace to share a metaphoric story, Josh is soon leaving for college. He's readying himself to leave home and become an adult. For any of you who have experienced this with your own child or experienced this yourself, you know leaving home is really hard. It is a transition into adulthood. And for both Josh and me, this transition time brings shared grief. The shared grief sometimes seeps out in very unhelpful ways. We get on each other's nerves. We seek narratives in our own minds about what we think the other person is saying or is meaning. And often, both Josh and I can't wait until this time period is over. But as hard as it is, this grief serves a purpose. It is the expression of a meaningful ending. It is an expression of an ending that we currently live in each other's lives. And just like pastors need to close their loop, Josh and I need to move apart, and this grief is helping us. We need to move apart because if we don't, Josh can't learn who he is without me, and I can't learn who I am without him. So in order to do that, we need to separate, and we need to grieve. And this is the same for a pastor and her church. We must close our shared chapter so each of us can figure out who the other is without us and how we are without that other piece. We must close our time together so your next pastor can be present with you and you with them. It is this church's time for a change in leadership. But here is the good news. Change in leadership has been going on in our faith since Joshua took responsibility after Moses, and Joshua led the Israelites into the promised land of God. Joshua led the Israelites out of the uncertain place, the confusing place, the anxiety-filled place called the desert. Joshua in the Hebrew means savior. The Greek name for Joshua, if you haven't heard this, is Jesus. One who is a savior, one who saves, one who brings people to where they need to be. But Joshua was probably not an actual historic figure. He and the book which bears his name are believed to be a metaphor for one who was called to be a leader of people. So yes, this Joshua was the new leader after Moses died. Joshua, who with the help of God guided the Israelites as they wandered with an unclear and uncertain future, and Joshua brought the Israelites to a place where they met God's promise for them. And Joshua was probably not an easy person to live with. He is also the story of a most imperfect human. According to tradition, Joshua slaughtered people, caused harm, and hurt others as he guided the Israelites along. A most imperfect human who led other imperfect humans through anxiety, challenges, difficulties, and new ways of living, all with the help of God. And today our faith continues this story of leadership and the knowledge that church, even when wandering in unclear and uncertain futures, finds its way with a leader before them, all with the help of God. And these links that bring folks closer together towards the kingdom are gathered together, all with the help of God. And churches, especially those like Alfred Parish, churches who started out not with pastors leading them, but with lay leaders, continue to lean into who you are called to be, no matter who the leader is before you, all with the help of God.